Welcome back, everybody. If you didn't know, Etheria Restart is coming out, and with that I want to cover a few things regarding the game and some things you'll probably be interested to know before the game releases officially on June 5th, and that includes things like the beta and things that you can prepare with. Without further ado though, let's get into it. So first and foremost, if you aren't familiar with the game is very similar to that of an Epic 7 or a Honkai Star Rail-esque type turn-based game. With that, however, the game will release on June 5th. It will have a PC client on launch, and in short, the daily activities won't take long, and the game has a skip button, which in most cases, and from what I gather, really does mean that the game respects the player's time. Now, in addition to this, the energy caps at 200 with an overcap function literally baked into the system at the start of the game. And with this, you also regen 1 energy every 5 minutes. Now, in addition to all of this, there are tons of quality of life even from the beginning, including, again, things like an overcap system, background battling, again, skip buttons, and increased speed, I guess, on stages with autoplay included too. With that, however, let's actually break down each of the major points or basically content aspects of the game that you can expect before Etheria Restart releases again on June 5th. Now, before I get into that though, I do want to say that as of the time of this recording, in roughly 4 or so hours, Etheria Restart will be releasing or be more openly available for most players to try, as there is an open beta essentially, or a very highly accepting beta that's releasing on May 8th. In addition to this, they did announce some sort of rebate in terms of when you spend, you'll be rewarded in some way, shape, or form. TBA and TBD a bit on the details of that, but it is nice to know that there is some actual value if you choose to play Etheria right now. With that, let's actually break down Etheria's gameplay though. In short, this really is just a turn-based RPG, and it does combine Honkai Star Rail's 3D style and map exploration with the typical E7 combat and element system, which is, in this case, the RGB and light and dark system. Now, in addition to this, there are tons of content for the game to kind of churn through. Many creators and players that I've spoken to about the game have said that there is so much to do, honestly, if you're someone that enjoys maining a game specifically. And with that includes things like solo PvE, multiplayer PvE, guild wars, and real-time RTA or real-time PvP, which is a fan favorite for any of you that have come from the Outer Planes or Epic 7 sphere. Now, on that note, we should talk about the RGB and light and dark system, as the common RGB elements have advantages over each other. And in essence, it is essentially a rock, paper, scissors game, while the light and dark units are neutral to RGBs, but have an advantage against each other. Now, in addition to this, we should now actually talk about the free-to-playness, of Etheria. Now, in terms of their free-to-play aspects, the endgame PvE is clearable with most SRs and free SSR units, and in addition to this, there is no 50-50 on the character banners. Now, to be clear, this is a trait that is present and most common with games like Epic 7, where technically speaking, the pity is at a slightly increased rate in order to guarantee or pull a single copy. But with games like Epic 7, you should know that the impact of each individual character is arguably a bit more questionable than if you were to pull a character on something like a game like Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact, Zenless Zone Zero, etc. Now, in addition to this, you should know that in terms of the gacha, Constellations are only really fixated or focused on the stat bonuses. In addition to this, all the weapons in the game are farmable. You also have a decrease or a more free-to-play friendly or more consumer-friendly pull cycle, where the actual value of the hydro crystals or the conversion of the premium currency to a pull is much more generous compared to the others. If I'm not mistaken, at the time of this writing, it's roughly 100 crystals to 1 pull, which again, by comparison, in other games, it's something like 150 or 160 by comparison. In addition to this, they also fixated very, very heavily on giving us SR and SSR units to, again, clear content. But in addition to this, you can also buy copies for characters similar to Wuthering Waves, all in the shop. In regards to the pity does carry over on banners, and the soft pity actually begins on the 50th, and by comparison, Wuthering Waves and Star Rail / Genshin respectively start at 66 and 76 roughly, which again is a benefit or more of a plus, though again you do have to consider that sometimes the characters that you'll be pulling in more PvP or multi-character sort of games like this may have arguable value, again because the impact of each individual character is a bit more debatable. Now, moving from this, we should talk about the reroll. Now, in terms of the reroll system, we aren't necessarily sure how it'll work as of the upcoming or the next closed beta, and that's because the previous closed betas had accounts that weren't allowed to reset in any way. However, of course, we're not exactly sure what this means for the release of the new beta, and I'll pin a comment once we find out exactly what it is. But now we should actually talk about why rerolling might not be worth it, especially given the Epic 7 style banners. Now, first and foremost, the player will be given the ability to choose any SSR character and obtain them with 40 pulls. Fantastic, but in addition to this, the banner doesn't have access to the very powerful light and dark characters, which can actually make rerolling both potentially impossible, as we saw earlier, but also possibly not worth it overall. And if you're someone that has played a game like Epic 7, you kind of understand the value and how powerful some of these light and dark units are. However, the developer, or the main developer or head developer himself, has admitted that they are trying to make the characters in the game more balanced so that characters have more niche or have more specific uses and aren't just generally overpowered. Now, in addition to this, you should know that, on a side note, Freya is not pickable with the targeted summon since she's the first limited rate up character. But in addition to this, also know that based on the live stream that was discussed, they did say that limited characters or rate up characters will also be put straight into the standard banner as soon as they're released. So if you're someone that's more free to play friendly or just so happen to have random standard pulls, there is a chance for you to even get the targeted or rate up character that's currently available. Now, beyond all this, it should be said that if rerolling is more viable or possible, your best play will be rolling for a light / dark unit, as of course the trending for games like Epic 7 and especially games like Summoner's War is that some of these light and dark units are the best characters in the game. However, in a same or a similar vein in terms of probabilities and pull chance, this will definitely take you way longer than you expect. Now, with this, I do also, of course, want to talk about whether the game is honestly worth playing, and here's what I think about the game as a whole. Etheria Restart is definitely a contender for all the big current gacha games, especially within the PvP sphere, since it takes a little bit of every game and makes it into what seems to be a really genuinely action-packed, content-packed game with tons of PvE content for players to tackle. And even from the beginning, we have a variety of different looking characters that all look fantastic with a pretty good looking 3D styled graphic design, more important than anything else though. Now, beyond this, I do also have to say that the game does break a lot of the rules that most of the gachas have considered the standard, with things like characters being guaranteed and no more 50/50s on limited units, things like the gears and weapons being fully farmable, so you only have to pull a single character and you're done. The characters not having or really having game warping effects on them also feels very different, but something that you will probably associate a lot of these changes to, or these differences, is that in essence they are taking a lot of the systems that made Epic 7 one of the most free-to-play friendly games in the market. That said though, if you do compare this to games like Honkai Star Rail, a lot of what I've just said is completely outlandish and honestly a breath of fresh air if you're going from this to that. Now, in addition to this, though we don't have much information exactly about where the story is going to progress or what direction they're going to take with it, there is already a skip button. So unlike with Honkai Star Rail as well, you will be able to skip through hours of text for whatever reason, or you will be able to skip through content that you otherwise don't care for. And based on this, and in addition to the fact that all daily activities can be completed relatively easily and quickly, this is genuinely a game that not only respects your time while also having a competitive free-to-play or gacha system. It also has good graphics and character design with, again, plenty of activities for any players to go through. But in addition to all this, they have so many green flags in addition, or to add alongside, a developer that has outright basically said that they're very excited to be more consumer friendly or care more for the actual player themselves, which genuinely, whichever direction or whichever angle you choose to take this, is just very unusual, though very welcome, especially in the current landscape of gacha games. Now, again, I do want to say that Etheria Restart is nothing but good news, honestly, for players that are looking for a good alternative for especially turn-based or strategic RPG, or, well, I guess gacha games in general. But beyond all this, I do think that ultimately what I'm the most excited for, in addition to this free code, which again you should claim for a free 10 pull once it releases for the permanent summons, I'm just excited that with Etheria Restart, it looks like especially games like Epic 7 or Honkai Star Rail look like they have a more up and coming competitor that may prove to maybe force these companies to be a bit more creative, or maybe implement more changes so that they, I guess, have more competitive advantages compared to Etheria Restart. Because otherwise, to be honest with you guys, right now, I think that Etheria Restart is definitely a game that you should try if you are someone that is playing games like this already. And for those of you that, again, are already excited and are going to try the game, I encourage you definitely check out a lot of the PvP, because honestly, though the multiplayer co-op and, you know, all the PvE is definitely exciting, one of the things that made Epic 7 and Summoner's War so popular is just how captivating and how addicting it is to just continuously go through PvP and slam your head into like a table until you find the composition that works for your account, and then you slam it all the way to whatever rank you want. In any case though, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you again for watching. This was just a quick review of everything that you need to know before you play Etheria Restart. But as always, guys, thank you again for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.